topic here on Morning Kicker on Friday, August 22nd. It's becoming a cottage industry, or at least a cottage segment, a thread that we keep on following: stadiums for soccer in North America. And thanks to an interview, as Simon Evans did, the soccer business, talking to Deputy CEO of the USL, Justin Papadakis, kind of gives us a little bit of color of how so many new projects are being announced. And he has a whole wing to his work, just strictly working with municipal leaders, working on stadium deals. And in this interview that was published recently, Justin Papadakis said they're working, or at least talking to, 70 different cities.
So let's hear from Justin himself. Again, this is courtesy of our friend Simon Evans and the Soccer Business. Make sure you're subscribed to their newsletter and listen to their podcast and find them on social media. But rather than us muck up what Justin says here, let's just hear it from his
with
mouth.
70 plus cities right now, and we work on these stadium deals. And the reason that we do that is stadium deals, and we typically work on stadium districts, so apartments, hotels, and retail around the stadiums. They're hard and they take a lot of time, but we're getting very good at putting them together. And there's a very, very strong interest from our city partners in bringing professional soccer to their cities. So when you combine those two things together, what you see is a stadium deal after stadium deal being announced in the USL. Back in 2015, a lot of the mayors I met with were baseball people, right? It's amazing to see, Simon, in about 2017 or so, there was this huge rotation happening at the municipal level where the baseball people retired, and the next generation of municipal leader came in, and they are all soccer people. And so again, they see the economic value, which has to be, that's their first duty and priority to their citizens, is to do really good financial deals. But number two is when they can have that and bring something that will enhance their quality of life. If you're a city with a professional team, that puts you on a different tier. And these cities are seeing that they can have those quality of life and the status. Our cities are using their teams as the way to market their cities and states.
All right, there you go. That is Justin Papadakis, the Deputy CEO of the USL. 70 is a lot, Rob. That's a lot of cities. That's a lot. Now,
how many cities are in America?
He's not saying we're getting 70 deals done or we're building 70 stadiums. He said he's talking to. That's like, that doesn't guarantee anything, but it is obviously a lot. And I think it just drives home something we talk about on the show all the time, which is that while it can be very good for soccer, while we absolutely want to see stadiums built in places like Louisville and Albuquerque, hopefully, and Detroit's coming along, privately funded, and in some of these cases, it's only partly about the soccer, right? Soccer is just kind of the driver of interest to build out a real estate deal that has many interested parties. Now, you could argue that's necessary, right? The spark that gets us to that place can't just be like, soccer is really great. Should we build a stadium? Yeah, because there's just not enough money backing the game by itself. So this is sort of, what do you need to have involved to get this done? And if you build the stadium, like, it's a little bit Field of Dreams, build the stadium, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. Like, we might
definitely
as well
what Lexington did.
Exactly. Like, I don't know I don't know how bad to feel about this, because it feels a little bubbly. It feels a little bit like it's not just about the soccer, and that feels a little bit artificial, and that feels a little bit like there's not a scam going on necessarily, Rob, but it's it's not organic. It's not 100% organic.
Well, whenever the stadium deals come up, we're like, well, is this just a real estate deal in the guise of a stadium deal?
Yes.
And Mr. Papadakis here is
Yes,
literally that. He is the real estate agent that also works for a soccer company that like using soccer as a vehicle for a real estate deal. And also, side note, you mentioned Detroit, the privately deal. I think that's probably the only new stadium project that we've talked about in the show that didn't have some sort of mixed use element in the mix. But yeah, he's laying it out there that he's the real estate agent, spinning trying to get his land for housing, retail, and oh, by the way, a soccer stadium. And do you think that do you buy that completely, that like all the new generation of municipal leaders are soccer fans or people, or it's the newer generation seeing soccer as a viable real estate play?
Oh, we will drive ourselves insane if we start talking about intent in this situation and motivations and real. Are they really soccer people and all that stuff, Rob? We will drive ourselves insane.
Fair.
I definitely think that while Justin may be hyperbolizing a little bit, I definitely think that there's something to be said for the idea that a generation focused on baseball in smaller towns, because what was the only professional sport really available to smaller towns, Rob? It was minor league baseball. That group may have aged out. And then a younger group goes, why would we go with baseball, whose demographics tend to be on the older side or whatever, when we need to invigorate our economy with younger people and convince people to move to our town and blah, 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 blah. Let's do an arts district and let's do a, whatever. Let's build a soccer stadium and attract a team. And there's, look, just because these things are not always just about like the passion for the game doesn't mean it's not all good in the end for soccer, right? That's maybe, if you do have an issue with that, you're going to have to make your peace with it probably, because otherwise this stuff doesn't happen. Right. Otherwise, there aren't stadiums. There aren't minor league. Sorry about that word. Right. Because we want to avoid it. But there aren't lower division soccer teams who aren't expecting to build $1 billion stadium and attract 40, 50,000 people every week. Those stadiums wouldn't exist if you can't make them part of a retail district, of a mixed use development with apartments, with all these things. And again, get people involved who are investing, not because they care about soccer, but because they stand to make money off of this, right? Indianapolis is a great example of this, with the back and forth on their stadium and what their owner is clearly a real estate guy, clearly trying to use a stadium to get hold of some very valuable land in Indianapolis. But, I'm going to build you guys a soccer stadium. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm going to benefit from all that other stuff. Don't worry. I'm going to build you a soccer stadium. And obviously the mayor has said, well, we don't want a second division team. We want an MLS team. And yeah, it's complicated in America, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. And yeah, municipal leader, the Indianapolis mayor, is he a soccer guy? Because he definitely seemed like he threw a huge wrench in the works there in Indianapolis by just like inviting Don Garber to like wade in there and kind of throw everything out.
And again, this is the thing that because we are not a soccer nation, in the sense that the majority of sports fans are connected directly to this game, right? Because that's not the case in America. As great as the game has been and how much it's grown, when people like that, the mayor of Indianapolis, what he is doing is trying to burgeon his reputation, the legacy that he's leaving behind, and build his profile as the mayor of Indianapolis, because Indianapolis has got an NFL team. Why on earth would they accept and an NBA team? Why on earth would they accept a second division soccer team, Rob? That's below Indianapolis. But there are obviously plenty of towns where that calculation doesn't have to be made, where you're not coming in below your perceived level, at least in your mind, of what you think you are. So yeah, that stuff is all part of this too. And again, 70 makes me go, wow, which ones are we missing that they're talking about?
Yeah, there was an article, I think it was a Beyond the 90, that even was saying, even in my backyard, that there has been talks in Ann Arbor to move in there. So there is definitely tentacles reaching far and wide across this country. And I guess if there is a staff member, and I'm assuming Mr. Papadakis has some assistants, they're spending, their 9 to 5, 365, trying to get as many cities, like germinate the idea and a plan for a stadium. If you're spending if that's like your job in total, I could see how they could be, spreading the word across 70 different cities if that's your
right. And again,
role.
sometimes people use, and this has happened obviously with MLS, and it's now happening with USL. People have used that statement that this is a real estate play, or it's about real estate in almost every case, particularly with MLS. The most recent batch of MLS expansion teams, almost all of them are building stadiums or taking over state. In some cases, that's not happening. San Diego's playing in a stadium that was already there. Charlotte is playing in their NFL building because they share an owner, that kind of stuff. But it does feel like it's a lot of that, oh, this is just about real estate. And therefore, again, stripping out this notion that it's about the purity of the game, or that the game is not growing in the right way. It's growing in an artificial money grabby way. And man, I
think it's a case by case basis. Some places, yes, some places I don't think so, because we're talking about Indianapolis not adapting the Indy 11 as like a team that just happens to play in a league that's not called Major League. And from the anecdotal comments that we've received, is it's definitely Indy 11 treated as a minor league, and there's like a whole kind of bubble play here. But in Detroit and in other places, it grew up naturally from an independent team, grassrootsy, and has elevated, and it's its own thing. It's not necessarily viewed down upon in the same way.
No. I understand that, but again, Detroit is an outlier. Detroit is a unicorn in this country, in the way that club built from what they were to what they are. This notion that expansion is artificial and not that it's not good for the game. I think the more fans you make, the better for the sport writ large. But this idea that it's not the right way to grow the game to have people spending $500 million to buy into MLS. Right. I understand that, but you're kind of wish casting. You're wanting a different scenario to exist in America that just isn't there. Right. We just don't have the time to be patient enough to wait for these teams to bubble up from 5 guys putting together a club in every case. In some cases, it's happened. In other cases, it either can't, or we should want to skip the line and build the game in other ways. Now, again, we also talked about connection to community and all that. And in our comments on recent videos, we've had this thing you and I did on Wednesday, a big question. In 10 years, you more excited for MLS or USL? Now, I made my pick of USL even before I saw this video from Justin Papadakis, but knowing a lot of what's happening in USL and the growth. And I have had to kind of reconcile, why I'm excited about USL is largely exactly this, that they have set themselves up as a real estate play for a second tier of American cities that would otherwise not be involved, that they otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to launch a team like this. So again, it's is MLS not community-based? People in our comments said, I don't understand that. Look at Seattle, look at Portland, look at some of these clubs that have been connected to their community. But we think of money as a barrier. The more money involved, the less community-based it can possibly be. And I don't, again, some of these USL deals feel like that. The local magnate, the local real estate developer, the local construction boss is coming in and going, I want that land. I'll own your USL team. Sure. And does it feel real? I don't know. That's stuff we have to figure out as we go.
Yeah, not just the day and age that we're entering into this soccer world. We're not at that grassrootsy age back in the day, like how baseball grew up from tiny little teams, just in overseas, tiny little teams growing in the late 1800s that grew naturally. We're not in that world in our era of boom expansion. So the modern world of corporate entities and big money like this, it is what it is. And then we'll take a case by case basis to see which ones turn into actual stadiums, and to see if they kind of disenfranchise the community aspect or not. Especially, it'll be interesting for Detroit. We're talking about unicorn. They're going from in a couple of years, they're going to be going from their retrofitted ancient high school football stadium into a brand new shiny soccer specific stadium. How will that transition go? Will the community connection expand or retract based on that? And time will tell. And that's one of the things I really liked about our segment that we did about kind of daydreaming in 10 years is, if everything that has been projected or wished, or there's a hope of, now comes true, both are very exciting. USL almost seems like sky's the limit in a way. If there's 70 new things coming along down the pike, Pro Rel happens, and there's 3 leagues, but it's all a lot of very, very written on paper, but not necessarily real things yet.
It's a lot of speculation, it's a lot of that. But again, It's very American, and you either make peace with that or you don't, right? You either decide it's okay that this is the way it's developing in our country, or you bemoan the fact that we're not doing it like everybody else did it, and it's not grassroots soccer becoming professional soccer, et cetera, et cetera. That you're just going to have to make your choice and make your peace. And if you just can't, I don't know, go rail about it on the internet, I guess.
That should do it for now, but let's keep the conversation going in the comments under the video. If you've got something to say about this topic, keep it going. A big aim of this show is to be a facilitator of the American soccer conversation. Become a town square for commentary, talking about topics just like this. Todd was asking how to become a member. There should be a button that says become a channel member. Perhaps if you're having a hard time finding that, maybe you have to subscribe first to become a member.
There is. I'm pretty sure become a subscriber. Definitely do that. Once you're subscribed, you'll see a join button right below the video as you watch, and you should be able to hit that and become a member.
Yeah, and another tip of the hat to Brad Memphis for being our Ultra of the Week. He is a big contributor to the Morning Kick Around Discord server. One of the many perks of becoming a member of the channel. And also Riverside was thrown into the mix about Pittsburgh Stadium. Go back into our video feed. We talked about the expansion announcement in Pittsburgh on Wednesday's episode.